Have you ever noticed how some brands seem to blend into the background while others shine bright? You might think that excitement and flashiness are the keys to success in marketing. But here's a shocking fact: nearly 60% of consumers trust boring brands more than their trendy counterparts. That's right. Boring brands often win in the long run, and there's real science behind it. Many people don't realize that over 70% of consumers prefer brands that are reliable over those that chase trends. This means that being boring can actually be a powerful strategy. So, why do these seemingly dull brands perform better? They focus on building trust, delivering consistency, and creating emotional connections with their customers. In this video, we'll dive deep into the world of boring brands and uncover their secrets to long-term success. You'll learn about the science of predictability, the benefits of patience, and see real-world examples of brands that are quietly thriving. Get ready to change the way you think about marketing, because in the end, boring brands might just be the smartest players in the game. Chapter 1: The Silent Superpower. Boring brands define what exactly makes a brand boring. It's not about being dull or uninspiring. It's about being predictable, consistent, and steady. Think of brands like Clorox, Microsoft, or even Visa. They're not exactly exciting, right? But they dominate their industries, and that's not by accident. These brands build trust by being dependable. According to a study by Edelman, 81% of consumers say trust is a deciding factor when they buy a product. And trust isn't built overnight. It's built through consistent delivery of value over time. A boring brand doesn't change its messaging every few months. It stays true to its core values, allowing customers to know exactly what to expect. Boring brands also avoid the temptation of over-promising. They understand that being reliable matters more than being flashy. It's like what Jim Collins says in his book Good to Great: greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice. Boring brands consciously choose consistency, and that's their silent superpower. Chapter 2: Mastering the Mundane. Turning predictability into profit. It might seem counterintuitive, but predictability is a massive asset in business. Customers don't always crave excitement. In fact, in many industries, stability is more valuable than innovation. Take toilet paper, for example. You don't want your toilet paper brand to suddenly innovate in ways that surprise you. You want it to work exactly the same way every time. That's predictability, and it's profitable. A study by Accenture found that brands with consistent messaging across multiple channels can increase revenue by up to 23%. Why? Because people trust consistency. Boring brands leverage this by maintaining the same tone, quality, and service year after year. The predictability becomes part of their identity, which consumers lean on. Another great example is McDonald's. The Big Mac isn't groundbreaking. It's predictable, and that's why people love it. Whether you're in Tokyo or New York, you know exactly what you're going to get. Predictability provides comfort and builds customer loyalty, making it much easier to scale and sustain long-term profitability. Chapter 3: Flashy Fades, Steady Stays. The downfall of hype-driven brands. Hype-driven brands often explode onto the scene with a lot of buzz, but they struggle to sustain that momentum. They rely on shock value, viral marketing, and flashy launches. But the problem with hype is that it fades fast. Think of brands like MySpace or Vine. They were huge for a moment, but their inability to maintain relevance caused them to disappear. Boring brands don't rely on short-lived trends. They focus on the fundamentals. A study published by Harvard Business Review showed that 65% of high-growth companies outperform competitors by focusing on long-term customer retention, not just short-term acquisitions. Boring brands play the long game by focusing on customer loyalty, not just attention-grabbing campaigns. Take Coca-Cola, for example. The brand isn't hyped up, but it's been a market leader for over a century. Instead of chasing trends, Coca-Cola invests in making sure their brand is everywhere, always visible, and always dependable. As the CEO of Coca-Cola, James Quincey, said, "We don't change who we are just because the world around us changes." Chapter 4: The Subtle Science. How boring brands outlast the competition. When it comes to marketing, there's a subtle science behind why boring brands thrive. It's all about comfort and familiarity. Consumers are drawn to brands that feel reliable and stable. In fact, studies show that 70% of consumers prefer brands they can trust over new, innovative options. Boring brands build that trust through consistency and familiarity. Imagine walking into a grocery store. You might be drawn to a flashy new product, but chances are you'll grab the brands you know and love. This behavior is deeply rooted in psychology. According to the mere exposure effect, people tend to develop a preference for things merely because they are familiar with them. Boring brands capitalize on this by being consistently present in the market. Take Campbell's Soup as an example. For decades, they've kept the same branding, allowing consumers to feel at home with their products. In a world full of change, this stability is comforting. As the marketing expert Seth Godin puts it, people don't buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. Boring brands focus on building those relationships over time. Another strategy that boring brands use is emotional connection. When a brand stays consistent, it often becomes part of a customer's life story. Think about how many family dinners have featured Campbell's Soup or how many road trips have included a stop at McDonald's. These brands create lasting memories that keep customers coming back. Chapter 5: The Power of Patience. Why slow growth outperforms quick wins. In the fast-paced world of marketing, the idea of patience might seem outdated. However, slow and steady wins the race. Boring brands excel in this area because they prioritize sustainable growth over quick wins. According to a study by the Harvard Business School, companies that focus on long-term growth outperform their competitors by 47%. Consider the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise, representing slow growth, wins because he stays focused and consistent. Boring brands often take this approach, investing in building strong foundations instead of chasing trends. They understand that it takes time to build a loyal customer base. A great example is IKEA. The brand didn't become a global powerhouse overnight. It took decades of slow, consistent growth, focusing on quality and affordability. By prioritizing a unique shopping experience and reliable products, IKEA has created a loyal following. They didn't rush to expand but instead ensured that each new store met their standards. Patience also allows boring brands to adapt and learn. When a brand is focused on long-term goals, it can analyze data and customer feedback over time. This helps them refine their strategies and offerings. As Amazon founder Jeff Bezos said, "We are stubborn on vision. We are flexible on details." This flexibility leads to smart, calculated changes rather than knee-jerk reactions. Chapter 6: Boring but Brilliant. Case studies of winning, bland brands. As we wrap up our discussion on boring brands, let's take a look at some real-world examples that showcase their brilliance. First on the list is GE, General Electric. This company has been around for over a century and continues to innovate quietly. Their steady focus on research and development allows them to remain a leader in technology and energy solutions. Another example is Duracell. The brand's simple, reliable message of "batteries that last" has kept it at the forefront of the battery market. Their focus on quality and consistency has resulted in a massive share of the market, even with new competitors popping up regularly. Furthermore, consider the case of Ben & Jerry's. While they might not be boring in the traditional sense, their consistent commitment to quality ingredients and social responsibility sets them apart. They've built a strong, loyal following by staying true to their values, allowing them to thrive in a crowded market. Lastly, let's not forget about Microsoft. Once considered bland, Microsoft has steadily maintained its position as a tech giant. Their focus on enterprise solutions and consistent product updates ensures they stay relevant. As Bill Gates famously said, "Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning." Microsoft has embraced feedback to adapt and grow without losing sight of its core values. In conclusion, boring brands prove that there's power in consistency and patience. They build trust, create emotional connections, and focus on long-term growth, which allows them to outlast the competition. By staying true to their core values and steadily evolving, they establish themselves as reliable players in their industries. In the end, it's not about being flashy, it's about being there for the long haul. If you found these insights valuable, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more content that dives deep into the secrets of successful marketing strategies. Join us as we explore the world of brands that quietly shape our lives every day.